Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the program agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, greeting you a pleasant day, wishing you are in the best of health on this 9th day of June 2022. It's a Tuesday. Please join us today. It's going to be a very informative, somewhat technical day, but you will get to know people that are now going to be on the forefront of policy, of action in government, etc., etc. Because today we will be joined by the incoming chief, the next secretary of the Department of Information Communications Technology, and then nominee Ivan Uy, and we will introduce him later because it is good to know who your officials are. And later we will be joined by Dr. Roehlano Briones, kakabulol-bulol na ako, Roehlano Briones and Dr. Margarita Gonzales of the Philippine Institute of Development Studies to expound on some of the country's sectoral issues. Marami po tayong pag-uusapan. Please do join us. Please listen so that you know what's going on, what will happen, etc., etc. But before that, let's go to our regular daily starter. And this is once again another reminder brought to you by Toby Mack, the author. If the Bible calls it sin, it's sin. Your opinion does not really matter, okay? In this time of so many justification and rationalization, if the Bible calls something sin, it's sin. If your mother says it's sin, it's sin. Oh, pareho lang yun, okay? So let's now go to the front page of the Philippine Star for a quick review of the news. This 9th day of June 2022, the headline, LTFRB grants 1 peso jeepney fare hike. Ay nako, I hope BBM looks into this because that is almost like adding insult to injury. You have a 7 peso hike in just 1 week and they get a 1 peso hike. Anyway, that's the front page headline. LTFRB grants 1 peso jeepney fare hike, whereas the operators were asking for 10 pesos. And then at the top of the front page, Agrarian Reform Chief and Security Advisor have been named by BBM, namely Professor Clarita Carlos will be the National Security Advisor, and Congressman Conrado Estrella III from the long-reigning Estrella Kingdom of Pangasinan. And of course, his father was also secretary before under Ferdinand Marcos Sr. And so it all is down the line. Ika nga, nama-namana na yung abilidad. Anyway, the big photo at the top of the front page is a photo of school children, and the news associated with that is the DepEd wants in-person remedial summer classes Monday to Friday. Meanwhile, Vice President Sara Duterte, or incoming Vice President Sara Duterte, has reported an expenditure of 216 million for her campaign. Underneath that or below that news item, Department of Health and doctors urge President Duterte to veto the vape bill that was passed by Congress because it is not going to be good for the health of smoking Filipinos. Marcos to attend face-to-face APEC summit. The Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit will be held in Thailand on November 18 and 19, and incoming President Bongbong Marcos has expressed his intention to join the summit. Meanwhile, COMELEC Commission on Elections Commissioner Socorro Inting has been designated as the new acting chairperson of the poll body after former COMELEC chairman Saidamen Pangarungan was bypassed by the Commission on Appointments. On the bottom left of the front page, we have a photo at the gymnasium of the National Kidney and Transplant Institute yesterday, showing patients receiving dialysis treatment. There has been a surge of patients going to so many hospitals for non-COVID illnesses, and dun po sa NKTI nagdagsaan na ang may mga tama sa bato na kailangan ng dialysis. So please, watch your diet, watch your health, because when you go for dialysis, that's already a major challenge. Last but not the least, outgoing, or ewan ko kung outgoing ba siya or staying, whatever, Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. Has supported a shift or a return to print and broadcast as information sources, and that Filipinos should not rely on social media and bloggers for their principal source of news and information. Ayan po, hindi naman po niya kinokontra yung mga bloggers, but sinasabi nga ng marami that when it comes to news, verifying the news and accountability for what's written, print and broadcast have established historical and corporate accountability. Yung mga bloggers po at yung mga social media, parang lilitaw, lulubog, palitaw. Pag gustong mawala, mawawala. Okay, let's now go to our first interview. We have a long day ahead of us. We have with us someone who is a legal management graduate from Ateneo de Manila University. He completed his law degree from the University of the Philippines and studied also at the University of Minnesota under the prestigious Hubert Humphrey Fellowship. I am reading this so that you know the background and qualifications of the people whom the incoming administration will be designating as cabinet members. Okay, our guest was previously appointed to the Commission on Information and Communications Technology in 2010 under the Aquino administration. And then he also served as Chief Information Officer at the Supreme Court during the term of then Justice Hilario Davide Jr. He was known for the digitalization shift at the Supreme Court. According to the CIO Forum, an organization of Chief Information Officers in the government, Uy is an expert on computer forensic, cybercrime, electronic evidence, e-commerce, and digital ethics. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome as incoming Secretary of the DICT, Ivan Uy. Sir, good morning.
Good morning, Cito.
Okay, thank you for giving us your time. And sorry, haba nung introduction ko sa iyo, but it is something I've been teaching people, my students in government. Make sure that you introduce people properly so that the public will have some measure of confidence and comfort that they are qualified. Clearly, you're a very qualified individual, Secretary Uy. Now, is this assignment something you wanted, you relish, or are beginning to worry about?
Well, I'm in my comfort zone in this area.
Okay.
And The issues relative to the department is something that I'm very familiar with. These are and the mandate is very clear with respect to the Department of Information and Communications Technology. Although the law has expanded its scope to include, for instance, data privacy, as well as cybercrime investigation and coordination. So those are the added features which were not present when I was chairman of the Commission on Information and Communications Technology about a decade back.
Yeah. Oh, okay, now what are your principal concerns for the DICT? Because a lot of people tend to think of DICT as ano yan, cellphone, cell site, at saka internet. Pero could you just familiarize our audience what exactly are the principal concerns of Ivan Uy as far as the DICT is concerned?
Well, it has several major mandates, no? And you're correct. One of the mandates is on digital connectivity, and part of this is bridging the what we call the digital divide by providing connectivity to all areas of the country. And since we have a lot of complaints, for instance, on digital access, especially in the remote areas. So we need to look at how we are able to connect what we call the missionary areas. These are areas that are far-flung. We call it isolated or distressed communities where the telcos hesitate in installing these expensive fiber network or undersea cables because it does not make business sense for them. The communities that it will serve are too small, and so it does not have the revenue generation capacity for the telcos. So these missionary areas have to be addressed because they cannot be isolated forever from our digital economy and linking itself to the rest of the world. So government has to come in order to provide that linkage. So that's one aspect.
Secretary Uy, I've been watching a lot of the developments in that area, and I know that the group of, I think it is Elon Musk, who's introducing Starlink, is bringing in a different technology, meaning they're no longer going to be relying on underwater cables, submarine cables, or on towers. They're going to rely primarily on satellite, much like Cignal TV, which is dependent on satellite and not cable. Are you going to do something about forcing technology shift for all the players?
Not necessarily, Cito. They complement each other. In many areas, what we call terrestrial connection is still the most reliable. The cable, cable connections, whether these are fiber optic cables or any other terrestrial communication. So these will still form the main way of connecting. However, there are ideal technologies to connect, for instance, those in the highly mountainous areas or those in the islands. And this is through the wireless satellite technology, which you mentioned. Elon Musk technology or Starlink is what we call a LEO, low Earth orbit satellite technology. And he plans to launch about 40,000 of them. And so far, there's about almost 2,000 of them already in place in the sky. So the Philippines is one of the few countries that will benefit from the first 2,000 satellites that have been launched. Although we're still studying where what we call the footprint. When we say footprint, when you have the satellite on top, it only lands into a certain area on the ground.
Yeah.
So because it's low Earth orbit, which means that the footprint is smaller. Unlike if it's a higher orbit, of course, the footprint would be wider.
Okay.
So at low Earth orbit, the footprint will be smaller, and we're still analyzing. We'll have to meet with the Starlink officials to see where those footprints land.
Okay.
So if it lands on the areas where we consider as the isolated areas that could not be serviced by our traditional telcos, then those will be our priority areas in setting up those satellite links. These links are cost effective this time, unlike in the past where we used to use VSAT systems where they're rather expensive and the bandwidth is quite limited. Here, you can the range of download is between 100 to 200 Mbps, which is quite comparable to what we have in our with our good connectivity in the
Yes.
office or at home,
Mhm.
and the cost is quite reasonable. I think one of the dishes, receiving dish, would cost only about $500 US, and the subscription is between $100 to $200 per month. So this is not designed for individual home use, especially for the poorer communities. That will be too expensive.
Yeah, but are you going by any chance? And I hope I'm not pushing the wrong buttons or asking the wrong questions here, Secretary Ivan. But I remember that the DICT had a program for connectivity, Wi-Fi connectivity of thousands of barangays. Now you're saying that this Starlink is not for home use. Will it be adopted by the government to revive this barangay connectivity platform or program of the DICT?
I believe that could be one of the programs. As you probably are aware, that did not address very well the connectivity issues.
Mm.
They deployed a lot of equipment which were purchased, but they did not provide the signal, the line,
Mhm.
in order to connect it. So you have the device, the Wi-Fi routers or whatever you call it, but when you try to access it, there's nothing. So we need to provide them either the connectivity on the mid mile or the first mile, what we call it,
Mhm.
to our backbone, which could be a fiber optic backbone,
Mhm.
or in case these are in the islands, then we can connect it to a landing station for the satellites. So
Okay, now,
they will
yeah.
complement each other.
Okay, now going to the common concern of consumers, quality and affordability of connectivity in the Philippines. I think we are still one of the more expensive services in the world. And it is ironic that for one corporation, one group, they have even in their own facilities, their services suffer, and people are saying, Papa, what can be done by the DICT to incentivize or to regulate this company so that they will have quality and affordable services?
Um, that will be under the jurisdiction of the NTC, the National Telecommunications Commission, although
Mhm.
it's an attached agency of the DICT.
Yes.
So we need to work with them and see what's keeping them from being able to deliver quality service at a lower cost. Obviously, in the past, it was identified that lack of competition is one of the factors.
Mhm.
That's why under PRRD, he pushed for the entry of a third telco, hoping that with that entry of the third telco, it will ramp up competition and result in better service as well as lower costs. And I think we've seen it, no? When this third telco came in, we saw that the offerings of the other two telcos have actually gone up. They used to just provide 10 Mbps at I think 1,599. Now some of their services already are up to 50 Mbps, and it's still at 1,599. So they kept the price, but the service has gone up from 10 Mbps to up to 50 Mbps. So I think that competition has actually resulted in better consumer protection.
Okay, now what other priorities do you have as far as the DICT is concerned? Because the potential for connectivity on the islands and in the mountainous regions could be solved with that Starlink and terrestrial cord links between the companies. What other areas can the DICT contribute to in the Philippines?
So aside from that connectivity issue, one of the other mandates, another one of the mandates of DICT is e-governance, which is to connect all the other government agencies, hopefully into a singular e-government portal. That's a tall order. We've seen the disparity and the disconnect among the different government agencies with respect to their IT systems. Many of them do not share information, or they follow different standards in their setting up of the ICT infrastructure. So we need to reconcile them, find out ways and means in order to provide a more cohesive structure, so that the public, when it transacts business with government, doesn't have to transact with various entities falling in line in every agency just to get clearances or approvals or permits or whatever they need. Hopefully,
but do you have to? Sorry, Secretary.
Yes.
But do you have to start from scratch in order to do that to get everyone on the same platform? Because I know we tried to do that, or the government tried to do that with the contact tracing platform, and every barangay, every city had their own program. And but at the end of the day, Magalong said, surrender na ako. This is impossible. So, but you as the DICT secretary, first of all, because you're very familiar, you reportedly spearheaded the digitalization of the Supreme Court. Is there an existing platform, and will it simply be a matter of, okay, the DICT is declaring everyone come on board on this platform, or magre-research na naman kayo, and how many years will it take before you achieve that tall order?
Well, Cito, I'm very familiar with the issues, and I'm very familiar with the challenges on e-governance. We need to deal with actually, the technology issue is the easy part. It's the political issues, the turf issues, the issues where it will affect certain vested interests. You know, when you're dealing, I see that big smile on your face, Tito.
You're being diplomatic, you're being prudent. Ako na magsasabi. Meron kasing mga kontra sa e-governance because mawawalan sila ng dilihensya. There are people who are in bed with service providers or whose children are operating the platform of e-governance in their localities. Now, the question, ako na nagsabi, hindi na kayo, no? The question is, how will you go about to overcome all of that? Is this going to be via presidential decree?
There are many ways of skinning the cat, so to speak. So we will approach each problem uniquely, depending on what are the challenges of those problems. What is very important is we need to have a champion. And it is very clear under the presidency of President-elect Bongbong Marcos. He has decided to be the champion of this. So we have the political will, and he has the political capital to push this through. So that is the main difference.
Okay, I'm curious because, you know, in the past, I knew the Bongbong Marcos of the past. Medyo kalma siya, soft-spoken siya. But when he sat down with you or spoke to you about him being the champion and his interest in information communications technology, Did he say certain things, or was there a particular line that made you realize this guy means business and he's going to be in front of the program?
Yes, actually, when you've sat down and really talked to him, he studies everything very, very well. And I'm amazed, no, at the breadth and the depth of his knowledge in many of the areas. When you talk to him about agriculture, talk to him about power generation, energy, talk to him about ICT. We as cabinet members have to be very careful because we have to study them very well. We cannot go and meet him unprepared because he will ask the tough questions.
Mhm.
And in many instances, he already knows the answer. So, hindi mo pwedeng bolahin. Hindi mo pwedeng bolahin siya. He's a voracious reader and he's very updated. Just give you an example po. Yung Starlink. Napirma yung Starlink nung Friday afternoon of I think 2 weeks ago. Friday afternoon, 2 weeks ago. Saturday morning po, tumunog na yung cellphone ko. At tinanong na ni President-elect BBM, ano ang footprint ng Starlink? Ano mga areas na coverage? Ilang satellites ang nasa ibabaw ng Pilipinas? Ano yung bandwidth? Tinanong na kagad ako. So, mabuti naman po at I'm familiar with the technology. Dahil kung pag-aaralan ko pa ho yun, mapapahiya ako kay Presidente. The morning after that, he already was reading up and analyzing the impact of this technology on his program of digitally connecting the remote areas. And then we discuss about, okay, reliability. What are the issues that could be present? For instance, in satellite technology, the weather, cloud cover could play a factor in the connectivity. But ganun po. So we have to be on our toes. I'm very, very excited to finally have a president who will keep his cabinet members on their toes.
Okay, now last question from our news desk, Secretary Uy. Can we expect one or two more telcos to join the pack aside from Starlink?
That's actually a good question, Cito. The investment cost is huge, and we see that with the third telco player, when it came in with a huge purse, and yet it is struggling in its implementation. Hopefully, with the signing of the Public Service Act and incentives for investors, we've lifted a lot of the legal restrictions on foreign entities in coming in and serving.
But is there still a viable market in the Philippines? Because some people I've spoken with have said, ay nako, kalimutan mo na yung texting, capital, hindi na uso texting because of Viber and Messenger. Some people no longer do voice. So the general sense is it's all internet, no more on the telephone part of it. Kumbaga, telepono pang camera na lang. Is there still a profitable market for investors to come in?
Definitely, Cito. Because now, with the change in the telco structure, actually their biggest revenue source is no longer voice. It's data.
Okay.
It's data. So, and everybody wants data. They cannot have too much data. Once you install 10 Mbps, after a few months you want 20 Mbps.
Okay.
And so on. So too much
That's
data is not it's not an issue. They always want more, and they also want it cheaper. So and not only that, the apps that you're seeing, dati po you only are able to do voice over IP, and now they want to see YouTube. They want to do video streaming. Now, those would require even higher data So the thirst for data, I think, will be continuing to increase, and therefore it will be continuing profitable for
Okay.
the telcos.
Well, Secretary Ivan, I wish you all the best. We wish you well, and we pray that God will bless you and protect you, because you are at the forefront of what is probably the most needed, most important, the pivotal service in the BBM administration and the future of the Philippines in the next 6 years. So we will encourage people to support you and pray for you. And please, if there's anything we can do here on Agenda as communicators, please let us know.
Thank you very much, Cito. That is very encouraging. And I do look forward to the support of everyone in pushing for a digital Philippines that is digitally competitive in the global economy.
Okay, thank you very much. And that is the incoming Secretary of the DICT, Secretary Ivan Uy. Now, kung kayo po iniisip nyo lang yung mga text, message, voice, o kaya data, well, Indonesia is already beating us at the game, because now they're even offering 5-year visas for digital nomads. In other words, mga taong umiikot, they travel the world over, they work with their laptops, and they are travelers, yung tawag nga digital nomads, because wherever they go, they buy food, they rent, etc. So Indonesia figured, okay, let's give these foreigners 5-year visa, let them stay here, etc. They will contribute to our economy. If there's 1 million of them, that's 1 million jobs that it generates. So I hope that the incoming administration picks up on that. And we'll go for a quick break. When we return, let's speak with the people regarding from PIDS, regarding agriculture and inflation, etc. here on Agenda. Welcome back to the program Agenda. Next up, we have the Senior Research Fellow of the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, Roehlano Briones. Dr. Roehlano Briones, welcome to the program.
Magandang umaga, Cito, at magandang umaga din sa iyong mga taga-subaybay.
Okay, medyo napapaya ako, lalim ng Tagalog natin.
Komportable lang tayo.
Okay. Bibigyan ko lang po ng background ang ating mga viewers. Kayo ay may PhD in Economics from the University of the Philippines in Diliman. You've done postdoctoral fellowship at World Fish Center in Penang, Malaysia. You have published numerous journals and edited 5 books on various topics in agriculture, rural development, and which won the National Academy of Science Technology Book Award. Now, congratulations on your achievement. My question is, as an official or a research fellow, senior research fellow at the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, what is your initial outlook for agriculture given the numerous problems that have been cropping up. You have the Ukraine-Russia war creating supply chain disruption in wheat, etc., and corn. And then there is this food nationalism that's happening. And in the Philippines, many of the critics of the past administration or outgoing administration have said that we have become too import dependent. Anong mangyayari sa atin ngayon?
So that's a lot, no, Cito? But let's see. Yung latest figures on the quarterly growth ng agriculture is really quite poor, no? We arrested yung slide that happened in 2021, but it's still in the negative territory, being led by continued contraction ng crops and yung malaking livestock, yung fisheries, plus yung malaking the component ng livestock, which is hogs, and even with fisheries. It seems like poultry and a few of the subcrops, yun lang ang mga medyo magandang performance. Now we have to realize that agriculture is, among all the sectors, industry, services, the most prone to changes in the natural environment. So very sensitive yan sa mga pagtama ng typhoon, pagtama ng drought, o yung animal disease na tumama nga dun sa swine sector. So, plus, as you mentioned, merong mga international dynamics. Ngayon, that has a mixed effect, no? If it's the prices of cereals and grains, pag tumataas yan, that's usually favorable to the Filipino farmer kasi less competition from imports. Although it's probably not so good for the Filipino consumer kasi we're relying on imports plus domestic consumption to get affordable food. But it's also very bad for farmers pag titignan natin yung impact niya sa energy and fertilizer prices. So ito nga yung pagbabanta from Department of Agriculture na nobody likes this, but because of all-time high, historic high ng presyo ng abono, especially urea, no? Plus yung energy prices, which affects severely fisheries, no? We're looking at further cost escalation for some of our key commodities. So that's dagok sa farmer. Simultaneously, dagok din sa consumer yan kasi magiging mas mahal yung kanilang bilihin.
Okay. Dr. Well, but whose fault is it? Whose fault is it? Or what is the cause? Hindi naman sa nagsisisi ako, no? Pero you guys are the experts in research, analysis, etc. If BBM were to ask you, where did we go wrong? Kasi I remember with Ferdinand Marcos Sr., they started the Green Revolution. They had the Masagana, etc., etc. And back then, all the talk was about self-sufficiency, whether at the level of the farmer himself or at the national level. The goals were self-sufficiency in agriculture, rice, etc., and in energy. Pero ngayon, biglang nag-shift in the past administration, several administrations, to import daw kasi mas mura and mas efficient for the economy. What would you recommend that BBM should do now?
So yung Green Revolution, no, simulan natin dyan, that's actually a result of research and development programs, first internationally, and then it spread to the Philippines. International, they had breakthroughs sa mais, sa trigo, and then sa Pilipinas, nagkaroon ng breakthrough sa bigas, sa rice.
Sa palay.
Palay, no? And then that disseminated first in the Philippines and then actually all over Asia. So yung resulta ng research na yun from IRI, actually International Rice Research Institute based in the Philippines, kumalat actually throughout Asia. Now, the Green Revolution was promoted in Philippines thanks to aggressive government dissemination programs with all kinds of packages, incentives for farmers. So that much was a big accomplishment. Kaya lang, we have to remember na in a market, it's not just supply. So you got the big supply, but we also got big demand, no? Mainly because of continued growth of population. So you have a continued growth of population, and then we have limited land resources, no? Kasi hindi naman lalaki yung lupa natin. We can try to produce more supply from itong mga technological change. But in certain countries, it's population and demand catching up with the limited supply. And this happened to be the case for Philippines, especially since we are a country of rapid population growth. So we tend to, because of normal operation of market forces, draw on other countries na medyo mas malaking surplus nila. No? They're able to generate more supply, increase in supply than the increase in their demand. So for instance, case ng rice, very prominent in the minds of many people, is Thailand, with a much bigger land area, much suitable for rice farming, and then much lower population growth. So dun naturally mag-aangkat tayo ng bigas sa kanila. Ganun din, similar case sa Vietnam. So this is, shall I say, just the natural outcome of market forces. Now, government can try to oppose this by policy. Kasi makokontrol niya yung border eh. Sasabihin niya, wag kayong pasok ng murang bigas kasi kawawa naman yung farmer natin. And we've been doing that since 1972. Well, actually even earlier. Pero 1972 was the year na nagkaroon tayo ng National Food Authority where all of this function of controlling rice imports at the border got consolidated under then President Marcos Sr. So we've had that reform. After so many years, 2019, we decided we're going to abolish that system and let imports come in more freely. And actually, nagkaroon ng benefits yan sa ating mga mamimili because nagmura naman yung bigas relative to what it would have been kung we had kept the status quo.
But now we are paying the price for not having a policy of food security because in the United States, their population isn't necessarily growing. Their population is reducing, but their agriculture sector continues to produce with subsidies from government because the policy is when everyone else runs out with food, our silos will be full. Now, should the Philippines adopt a policy where come what may, dapat tuloy-tuloy ang production and support to local agriculture. Kasi parang ang nangyayari, either or Doc Roel.
So, balik tayo dun sa Green Revolution because the concept of that is growth in productivity. Although may mga cheap credit, other subsidies, ang mismong motivation niyan is actually superior talaga itong variety na ito dun sa mga traditional variety by certain parameters that matter for the market. So this is the kind of breakthrough we need. We need these breakthroughs and we need to disseminate them widely to our farmers. And that is the secret to actual food security and food self-sufficiency. If we can accomplish that in increasing measure year after year. And government can invest more in productivity, not just at the farm level, kasi we might be too confined because the Green Revolution was initially a farm breakthrough, but actually throughout, when we troubleshoot, from the palay to the bigas, may mga steps pa yan, di ba? Pag may mga inefficiencies ka dyan sa marketing, sa milling, sa distribution, yan din magda-drive up ng cost, magiging less competitive yung final end product na bigas na darating sa consumer. And it will also undermine food security. So we need that kind of intervention that will boost productivity throughout what we call the supply chain, or in terms of economic value chain of our foodstuffs. And that is the real key to food security. We may have missed our way over the decades. Maybe we were too much engrossed with the traditional programs heavy on subsidies for the farmers na instead of yung honest to goodness productivity growth. So halimbawa, yung ating rice yield ngayon is about 4 tons per hectare, is still below what is being achieved in competing countries like Vietnam. So the more we can get our productivity on track, the better.
What is the productivity level in Vietnam and Thailand right now?
I don't memorize the figures, but definitely more than 4 tons. In fact, even sa Indonesia, mas mataas pa, around 5 tons per hectare. So this is just one sign of weaknesses throughout our sector. If we go through coconut, sugarcane, etc., hindi lang rice lahat yan, parang napag-iwanan tayo in terms of growing our productivity compared to what was accomplished in other countries, even just our neighbors in Southeast Asia.
Okay, so am I correct in what I'm hearing from you that as far as you're concerned, until we can improve our efficiencies, our production efficiencies, we shouldn't focus primarily on localizing food security? Kasi may mga nagsasabi, import tayo ng import. Ngayon, wala ka nang may import sa Thailand at sa Vietnam dahil tinatago na nila. Indonesia is keeping its coal. Other countries are keeping their soya, etc. We may find ourselves in a spot where there's no more stocks. Kumbaga parang nagkaroon ng panic buying, wala ka nang mabili dun sa grocery.
So a specific case ng food, no, especially cereal, we have an advantage there because we have a growing season. No? As long as you have some buffer stock, and that is the remaining function ng National Food Authority. Pagka halimbawa nagkaroon ng food security problem in terms of imports, nagsara yung mga exporting countries, we have buffer stock. So that's the design. No? We have a buffer stock. And then using the new signal, ayaw nilang mag-export. Tayo ngayon magtatanim. So we also need some land reserve set aside, no? So that we can start planting more and rely more. In the meantime, habat hindi pa nangyayari, because that is purely hypothetical, hindi pa naman nagsasara yung mga yan ng kanilang mga merkado. They're still, nagpapalawas pa rin sila ng kanilang mga foodstuffs, no? Kasi they also want their farmers to profit from these high food prices. So habang hindi pa nangyayari yan, we should also take advantage. So it should be a two-pronged approach. No? Let's give our consumers a good deal by giving them access to affordable food wherever it's produced, but at the same time make sure that our public funds are used wisely to and maximize so that we can reduce production costs and make our farmers more competitive.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Dr. Roel, and sabi ko na nga ba kung makakuha lang ako ng breakthrough with PIDS, I will get so much substantial knowledge from your group, and we do hope to hear more from your area of expertise. Thank you very much for your time, Dr. Roel, and I will now go to your other colleague.
Anytime, Cito. You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. That's Dr. Ang hirap sabihin ng kanyang full name, pero Dr. Roehlano Briones. Now, let's go to our next guest who we hope can teach us about inflation, food inflation, etc. Dr. Margarita Gonzales is a senior research fellow also of the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, and her research interests are in the areas of monetary economics, financial economics, macroeconomics, etc. And she also previously served as consultant to various government agencies. And naku, haba po. Kausapin na lang natin si Doktora. Ma'am, good morning.
Good morning po. Good morning.
Good morning, I don't even know where to start, but the thing that keeps playing in my head is food inflation. And it scares the hell out of me because early this week, news came out that 3.1 million Filipinos experienced hunger. Nakarana sila ng gutom. And what have you observed in the general in the region and also in the Philippines as far as food inflation is concerned?
Well, for general inflation, I'll start with general inflation. Well, unfortunately, we do have a lot of external sources of that. Meaning, it's really because of the geopolitics of the Ukraine, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and that has affected world oil prices. So wala tayong magawa. Talagang we have to, ganun that's how it's playing out in the world market. And we're feeling it at home. Actually, it's a similar thing also with food inflation. There's worldwide upward trend in food prices. Also related to Ukraine, because Ukraine is, I think, one of the biggest exporters of wheat. And so
Mhm.
that's affecting commodities. And so we're also feeling that. And then, yeah, the pandemic. So now it's transport because of oil. That's
Yeah.
why we have lumalabas sa inflation natin. In the pandemic, it was transport because of supply restrictions. Hindi ply the roads at some of our public utilities at the start of the pandemic. So it was really transport that was pushing it up, transport and food. So yeah, and so it's what we call supply side shocks, meaning shocks that unfortunately we have no control over. So what the monetary authorities are really trying to do is trying to prevent what we call second round effects. Meaning yung pagtaas ng mga yan, mga commodity oil ay hindi nagpapataas ng presyo ng ibang mga bagay. That's what we call second round of
Okay,
effects.
now what are the
We're trying to
danger
control.
what are the danger areas for the incoming administration? Because some people have said more taxes. And some of the businessmen I spoke to said, nako pare, pag nag-impose pa sila ng taxes at the rate we're going, baka yung iba mag-pull back na. Kasi it will have even further inflationary effects. Is that ba? Pasensya ka na, hindi ako po masyado sa Eco 11 ko
Actually, ang worry po talaga is yung utang, the debt. That's where the taxes as an issue. That's where it's coming from. It's because we have high debt, 63.5 as of last reading. So yun yung worry ng mga tao kasi there's this parang unspoken I don't know what you call it, unspoken belief that if you go beyond 60%, it's gonna be dangerous or something. But the truth is that 60%, it's really not it doesn't really have any solid backing on bakit 60%. It's just a rule of thumb na pag 60% and beyond, maybe it's going to be bad. But the truth is, and even economists all around the world have said that it's really a number that you can communicate the debt, meaning you can communicate to your creditors na while we are at 60%, this is what's happening to our economy. We can, at some point, be able to bring that down. So it's really a matter of communication, in other words.
Okay, I've listened to several world leaders who have always, whose view is that let private sector do the development work, whether it's infrastructure, agriculture, etc., that government should not be in the business of business. Instead, they should simply focus on the basic needs for healthcare, security, it's a peace and order. Now, as an economist with such a wide experience, what's your view on that? Kasi parang it seems to make sense na parang wag na kayong makisawsaw dyan sa mga infrastructure. Let business do it.
So I'll connect ko lang. So there's the debt, and then there's some are saying that we need to raise our taxes in order to. I think what I'd like to just say is that I think so far what I'm hearing from our incoming economic team is that number one, they don't plan to cut spending. Number two, they will try as much as possible not to raise new taxes. If they can. They'll try to get it through, better tax administration.
Yes.
Of course, you have another view saying that you need to face reality and you need to raise taxes. So I think what's important is for them to meet at some area, meaning how do you raise revenues, right? And then still not raise it too much as to derail growth. So I think that's where the challenge is. How do you raise revenues without needing to be, without slowing down the economy?
I think the multi-million peso question is who to tax.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
anyone below the C, D, E level, you can't get, you can't squeeze blood out of a turnip, as they say. Now, who do we tax? Do we tax? Do we increase corporate taxes? Do you start levying tax on people who are in the billionaire levels, etc.?
Yeah. So by principle, what you want to do really is to lower the tax and to broaden the tax base. That's what we always say as economists. Okay, but even that is politically hard. So the outgoing economic team has a reform already put together, a tax reform proposal. And I think what the current one should do is really look at that reform, the proposed package, and then sort of analyze which one is doable, which one, right, is a reform or a change that will help raise revenues but will not slow down the economy, meaning it will not burden the taxpayers too much. So I guess that's the challenge.
Yeah, I know one CEO who said that we should increase the taxes on gambling. Another one said we should increase the taxes on luxury travel, meaning yung mga klaro na biyahe lang, not for business but for pleasure, etc., especially abroad. In the packages or proposals that you've come across this past few months, what other areas are being offered for as the sacrificial lambs of taxation?
I think, not sacrificial, but I think one area that's always mentioned, even by the economic team in the past, is really digital somehow taxing. Of course, so that's going to be also going to be contentious. So I don't know. But that's one area that's always mentioned.
How come no one's talking about? And I have rich friends. Sila lang yung mayaman, doctor, no? Pero
why you don't tax the rich?
Yeah, why are they not taxing the rich? Yun yung question lagi.
I think that it's really a matter of practicality, because I don't know how candid I can be, but the rich, they have the resources to get lawyers and tax lawyers, great tax, brilliant tax lawyers, and somehow still find a way to go around, to find a loophole. And so just the effort of getting the tax through Congress, and then after it's been, assuming you're able to pass it, then still not finding any returns from that because of the way they can go around it. Okay. I mean, that as candid as this is happening in other countries, by the way, not just in the Philippines.
Yeah. Now, Dr. Maggie, what about leakages? Are the leakages in tax collection really that substantial? Because I do know that there are people who rent out properties na hindi naman nagbabayad, they don't pay the withholding, etc. But are the leakages of uncollected taxes in the Philippines really that substantial?
Leakages in the sense that they should be taxed or they should pay tax, but they don't. I think common knowledge, we know that there are a lot, right, in the small businesses, etc. If you are to think of it in that way, I would suggest, I would think there is a lot, except I don't think it's been quantified, to be honest. I've never seen a quantification of it, a real quantification of it. But if you're talking about like the formal sector, like let's say I think more or less, if you're within the firm, corporate, the bigger
offices,
corporation, more or less it's captured. Kasi ano siya, diba? Automatic na siya eh. But it's really the small ones. Yeah.
Gray markets,
Yes.
gray markets, rentals,
And yung mga
underground
tubok,
economy.
di ba? May mga dalawang libro. You hear that all the time. So.
Okay. Well, Dr. Maggie, thank you very much for this initial engagement with PIDS. I really appreciate it because I know you guys at the PIDS, you are a treasure trove of knowledge and information. And we hope that you and your associates would welcome us, our request for interview. Thank you for your time, Doctora.
Thank you.
Okay.
I enjoyed.
Okay, that's
you.
Dr. Margarita Gonzales, Senior Research Fellow of the Philippine Institute for Development Studies. And ayun po, no? We will continue to seek information on these matters. But for now, I leave you our week's blessing. And here we go. May the blessings of this day radiate through your smile, be helpful through your hands, and shine through your heart. And that's today's agenda. Please keep it here on One News PH. God bless all of you.